Hi everyone, thanks for joining another Float Masterclass. My name is Emily, and over the next few minutes, we're going to take a deep dive into Float's analytic capabilities. We'll spend a little bit of time comprehending when and how to use the real-time analytics found within the schedule and the project plan, then briefly jump over to the Reports tab. Today, remember, I'm logged in as an admin level user, and thus your view may differ if you have different user permissions. So let's jump in and start with the schedule. Recall that we set general working hours for the team, and then we have the ability to customize working hours for each individual found within their schedule. Looking at my friend Amber here, you can clearly see that she does not work Wednesdays based on this grayed out day. I can look into her schedule and see some white space, which is reflective of remaining capacity. Alternatively, I can see some red, which indicates overtime. You can see that here. If I take a more intimate look at Amber's profile by jumping into her name, clicking availability, I can see more intimate details as to exactly how many hours Amber works per week. This is how we determine Amber's full capacity, so 8, 32 hours a week with the exclusion of Wednesdays. Now, instead of memorizing everyone's core capacity by week, we help summarize these for you directly in the tool. Anything that is scheduled against an individual, such as these 3 respective tasks or types of time off, will take away from someone's capacity. You'll want to start by activating the loop, which you can see here is already on my screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop within the timeline the time frame that I'm looking at. Now what's going to happen is you're going to notice some analytics populate just adjacent to the names of the people found within your schedule. Now you can go ahead and sort this list based on unscheduled high to low or low to high, or you can drag and drop the individuals however you see fit into your own custom sort. Alternatively, you may want to activate your loop for a specific period of time and filter for unique individuals that you're actively resourcing for. So this would be great if you're using these analytics to help you fill in an immediate resourcing gaps that you're trying to solve for. So for example, if there's a working group that you're frequently resourcing for, be sure to save the filter for easy access. This filter will marry across all of your respective tabs, and I'm going to highlight that in a moment. So to save a filter, let's just say I'm looking at my remote individuals. So you can type in the terms or you can use the buttons. And I'm also looking for my designers. Let's see, my design tag. Now I want to save this search, so I'm simply going to select the star here and call it Emily's Senior Design Remote Team, and I'm going to save that. If I accidentally clear that out, you can see that is now in my saved searches. Now what's happened here is I've isolated exclusively for those individuals. At the top here, I'm looking at just this week because that's how I've activated my loop, but I could adjust these dates however I see fit. You can see that there's a summary. So that first number is always going to indicate the total number of remaining capacity or unscheduled hours for that group I've isolated for. So you may say that at the beginning of each week, and let's look at next week instead of this week, I need to have a minimum of X number of unscheduled hours for this group. Alternatively, you may say that each of my designers needs a minimum of 2 unscheduled hours to accommodate for ad hoc or impromptu tasks. And you'll determine what those appropriate thresholds are as you're using the tool and learning what those figures are over time. Now that your schedule has been revised and you have your filter in place, let's just say I am looking at a remote designer and for someone to take on some work between Monday and Tuesday. Maybe I want to sort this unscheduled low to high or high to low, and I can see who has the most remaining capacity amongst those individuals with, again, those core skill sets. Now that I've sorted my schedule for the respective tags that I'm looking for, I can see that Grant here has the most amount of availability with 8 unscheduled hours between the Monday and the Tuesday, 6.7 scheduled hours, and 2.75 hours of overtime. I'm not too worried about that overtime because the unscheduled capacity, those 8 unscheduled hours, outweighs that overtime. And there's different ways that clients could address this. You could allow for your individuals within the schedule, the people, to adjust their schedule themselves to accommodate and balance out that overtime, or you yourself as a resource planner can address that independently. So there's different ways that you can tackle that. But now that I know that Grant has the most amount of capacity, I can go ahead and schedule him that respective task that I'm looking to resource for in real time. Now, if you're looking to resource over a longer period of time, then in that instance, you'll jump over to your reports and run your scheduled data for the entire group, or again, for that respective save filter that you set up, and bring in that search again. So let's jump over to our reports tab. Now, again, you can see that my filter has saved. If I accidentally clear that, or I want to bring that back in, I can simply do so. So let's just say I'm looking, at my resource planner, my senior designers on the remote team for a longer period of time. Here I've just selected the entire month, but perhaps I want to look at the next 12 weeks. I'm looking at my scheduled data and I want to look by weeks. Just like on the schedule, that white space is reflective of remaining capacity. So looking at this quickly, I can see, all right, midway through early May, I have quite a bit of capacity or unscheduled hours because I have a significant amount of white space. Now, if I just hover over here, we'll see a summary and we'll summarize the total capacity for those individuals, and you can see them in the list below, alongside how many hours have been scheduled, a breakdown of billable versus not, and then how many hours of time off. You'll also see any relevant milestones programmed in below. Now here, again, you may set those thresholds. So you may say our max capacity is at 70% scheduled. So in this instance, you can see I'm at 72% scheduled. We also have a public holiday and a major milestone. So perhaps that is our threshold for the time being. Alternatively, it may be the inverse. You may say that we only take on new business when we have less than 50% of our team scheduled. In this instance, we only have 38%, so I know I can pop in some new projects there. Scrolling down, we summarize that capacity as opposed to within the time frame you selected within the loop for that larger time frame. So I'm looking at the next 12 weeks, jumping at David here. He has 352 hours of capacity within the next 12 weeks. This is all that's found within his schedule. 118 of those 352 hours are scheduled, all of which are billable. And if I just look over here, I have a little health check or pulse point on exactly what percentage based on his capacity he's been scheduled by. And you can actually filter that if you want to isolate exclusively for billable percentage of capacity or billable percentage of scheduled. Okay, let's clear that filter. And you can see here now I have access to my entire team. The chart and the grid data is a little bit different, and we have all of the intimate details of all of our team and their own respective capacity, based again on those custom working hours that you've set. Now that we've covered the schedule and the people report, let's jump back over to our schedule and into our project plan. So you still have some real-time analytics, but those numbers change ever so slightly. Remember that when we're looking at the project plan, you're only seeing the data that is relevant for that specific project. So we're segregating out the data, again, exclusive to that project. So if I were to bring into my loop again from maybe Monday to Friday of this week, or I could manually select the dates this way, I can see a summary, but then I can see all the intimate details respective to each individual person found working on that project. So looking at Amber here, the number is telling me how many hours Amber has been scheduled against this particular project this week. So if I'm a project manager, perhaps I have a goal to get everybody working on this project this week. And I can see that I did not schedule Jacob, myself, so on and so forth, because these numbers are reading 0 hours. But I can see there's other efforts within their schedule that perhaps belong to other projects. So again here, looking at this week, looking at Amber, she's been scheduled 9.75 hours against the Android app HMV project. Now jumping back to the reports, if I toggle over to the projects, similar to before, I'm seeing that overarching summary, but for a longer period of time, if you do want to have that longer bird's eye view of your resource planning from a project's perspective as opposed to a people perspective. So again, I'm toggled over off from the people to the projects. I'll see all of my respective projects within the time frame that I've selected. So maybe I just want to look at this month. I'm looking at the scheduled data. Maybe I want to look by days. I have my summary, and then I have my overarching view below. So it doesn't matter if your budget is in hours or financial figures, you'll be able to see that overview there. Let's sort high to low, and then you can see a pulse point on exactly what you've scheduled to date, again within that time frame that you've selected. So to recap, you're looking at the data within the project plan and the schedule for real-time capacity planning gaps that you're trying to solve for, and then you're jumping over to the reports for that longer-term planning. So be sure to take note of these numbers because they can be exceptionally helpful with trying to understand where your team is, what they're working on, and how much capacity they have at any point in time. Now, in another class, we'll take a deeper dive into the reports, how to run the data, how to slice and dice the data, and the different suite of reports that we have access to. So keep an eye out for that class, and thank you for joining me today to talk about those real-time analytics. Bye-bye.